What if a house didn't rise from the land, but stretched itself along it? What if modern living wasn't vertical and monumental, not about towers, statements, or dominance, but about horizontality, intimacy, and quiet continuity? And what if, far from architectural capitals, not Paris, not Berlin, not New York, a modest house in the American Midwest quietly rewrote the future of modern housing? Hold that thought. Because this story does not begin with a manifesto, nor with spectacle, nor with a wealthy patron seeking attention. It begins with economic collapse, with constraint, with cold winters, with an ordinary family asking a difficult question: how do we live well when excess is no longer possible? This is the Malcolm Willey House, designed by Lloyd Wright in 1934 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Not a masterpiece meant to impress the world, but a prototype meant to serve it. Minneapolis in the early 1930s was not a forgiving environment. Winters were long and severe, with heavy snowfall and biting winds sweeping across open land. Summers could be humid and intense. The Mississippi River cut through the city like an industrial artery, feeding mills, rail yards, and factories that powered the regional economy. Architecturally, the city was conservative. Residential neighborhoods were filled with compact houses, pitched roofs, thick walls formed shaped more by practicality than by experimentation. Modernism had not yet taken root here. There were no villas perched on dramatic hillsides, no Mediterranean light, no forgiving climate. The Willey House site sat quietly near the University of Minnesota, embedded in a fabric of ordinary domestic life. It offered no drama, no views to conquer, no landscape to monumentalize. And that was precisely the point. Lloyd Wright believed architecture should respond not to idealized conditions, but to real ones, to climate, economy, and daily life. If modern architecture was going to matter in America, it had to function here, in places like this, for people like these. The Great Depression was not an abstract economic event. It reshaped the American psyche. Banks failed, jobs disappeared, confidence collapsed. Large homes suddenly felt irresponsible, even offensive. Architectural grandeur rang hollow against widespread hardship. Architecture was forced to confront a moral question. What is the role of design when society itself is struggling to survive? Many architects responded with stylistic reduction, less ornament, cleaner lines, but often without rethinking the social structure behind the form. Lloyd Wright took a different path. By 1934, Wright was in his late 60s, once celebrated, then dismissed as irrelevant by some critics who saw European modernism as the future. But Wright understood something essential. This moment demanded not imported ideas, but an American answer. He believed architecture could restore dignity without extravagance, beauty without waste, and modernity without alienation. The Malcolm Willey House became the testing ground. Malcolm Willey was not a patron of the arts. He was a law professor, intellectual, thoughtful, but firmly middle class. He did not ask for innovation. He asked for a small, affordable home for his family. This mattered deeply to Wright. For decades, Wright had spoken about designing for the average American, but opportunities to test that ideal were rare. Here was a client who did not want spectacle, only a livable, dignified dwelling. Wright accepted the commission with seriousness. This house would not be an exception. It would be a model. Instead of compressing the program into a compact mass, Wright did something radical in its subtlety. He stretched the house outward. The Malcolm Willey House unfolds horizontally along the site, its long, low profile emphasizing shelter rather than dominance. The roof extends outward, protecting walls from snow and sun alike. The building reads less as an object and more as a continuation of the ground. This was not merely aesthetic. Wright believed vertical architecture expressed hierarchy power concentrated above. Horizontality, by contrast, expressed democracy, equality, and continuity. In this house, no space dominates another. No room declares authority. The architecture lies low, calm, and deliberate, like a body resting rather than standing at attention. Inside that, the house rejects traditional domestic hierarchy. Instead, spaces flow laterally, one into another, forming a continuous sequence rather than discrete rooms. Living, dining, working, and resting are connected through proportion and light, not walls. This is not openness for openness' sake. Wright carefully controls ceiling heights, compression, and release, using subtle shifts to define zones without enclosing them. The house does not eliminate boundaries, it softens them. The result is a domestic environment that feels organic, humane, and psychologically legible. The entry is deliberately modest. Low ceilings, narrow passage, a moment of restraint. Then, almost imperceptibly, the space opens. Light expands across the interior. The living area unfolds and the body relaxes. This is classic Wright, but here it is distilled. Wright believed architecture should guide emotion, not merely shelter function. He used spatial compression not to intimidate, but to heighten awareness so that release feels earned, not given. The Malcolm Willey House is not experienced all at once. It is revealed slowly, patiently, humanely. The house is built primarily of brick and wood. Brick anchors the building against Minnesota's harsh climate, providing thermal mass and durability. Wood softens the interior, warming light and touch. Everything is honest. There is no applied decoration, no borrowed symbolism. Built-in furniture lines the walls not as convenience, but as discipline. These elements reduce clutter, define space, and reinforce the idea that architecture and life are inseparable. Luxury here is not abundance, it is clarity. At the heart of the house sits the hearth. For Wright, the hearth was never nostalgic. It was structural socially and symbolically. Even in a modern home, even during economic hardship, domestic life still revolves around gathering, warmth, and shared presence. The hearth anchors the plan, offering a center that is not hierarchical, but communal. Modernity does not erase ritual, it reinterprets it. The Malcolm Willey House is not yet fully Usonian, but it is unmistakably the beginning. Here emerge the principles Wright would refine over the next 2 decades. Affordable construction, open planning, strong connection to site, architecture as a framework for everyday life. This house is not about style, it is about values. It represents Wright's belief that architecture could be modern, democratic, and humane without sacrificing beauty or integrity. The Malcolm Willey House never became famous, but its influence spread quietly into post-war suburbs, into affordable housing ideals, into the very notion that good design could be ordinary. It did not change architecture through spectacle. It changed it through example. The Malcolm Willey House does not shout. It does not proclaim a manifesto. It offers a quiet answer to a difficult moment in history. When times are hard, architecture does not need to be smaller. It needs to be truer. But Wright was not alone in 1934. While he stretched houses low and long across the Midwest, another architect was lifting them into light on the West Coast. Another modernist, another immigrant, another believer in health, air, and clarity, but with a radically different vision. If this journey into the Malcolm Willey House reshaped how you think about modern living, subscribe to Space, Shape, and Scale. This channel follows modern architecture chronologically, one building, one idea at a time. And in our next episode, a house of steel and glass, of visibility and health, of modern life exposed rather than sheltered. Click the next video to continue the journey, because architecture never stops evolving, and neither should our understanding of it.